Thank you for joining me. This is Fly My Phantom. This is the updated video guide to repairing the loss of video feed from the camera to the DJI Vision app. Also going to answer some questions as well. This camera is also referred to as the FC200 or the egg camera due to its unique shape, and is found on the Phantom 2 Vision quad. Now that's quite an old quad, and the problem is after a period of time this camera loses its ability to transmit, and all you get is a spinning circle on iOS devices, and you just get a blank screen on the Android devices. Now a couple of things to note. First of all, regards to iOS, iOS 12 and below is the only iOS that will support the Vision app. Anything over 12 and you will find problems. Now one of the problems, as I found on an iPhone Max, was that instead of displaying Phantom_Mac address, it just showed Wi-Fi, and then obviously you get the Phantom connection broken message. The app on Android is best suited to Android 4, Android 5 and a little bit of Android 6. See, what happened was Android changed the way it deals with internet, and because this doesn't have internet but forms a Wi-Fi connection, Android gets a little bit upset and occasionally will kick you out of the app or freeze the app up. So if you're going to be using one of these older units, you really need an iOS device lower than iOS 12 and an Android phone or Android tablet that's on Android 4, 5 and 6 at a push. In this section I'm going to show you the fault as it occurs on your iOS device or Android device. I'm going to go into Wi-Fi and we're going to choose the Phantom Wi-Fi there. It takes a few seconds to connect. We're then going to launch the app. Once the app's launched, you see it says the Phantom there on the top. Click on camera, and then as you can see, all you get is the spinning circle, and this will spin forevermore. So this camera is a definite contender for being repaired. Okay, so what parts we're going to need to actually do this repair? First thing we're going to need is a USB to TTL, an F232RL or an FTDI serial adapter. This uses a mini USB connection, so you will need a USB to mini USB cable. Now these boards come in all varieties and flavours. It is recommended that you get one that's shown in the picture here that has the jumper and can output 5 volts. Okay, I'm going to show you how these are wired up a little bit later in the video, so don't worry too much about that. Right, so we're now ready to take this camera apart, having assembled all that you need. We're going to need this, a 1.5 hex screwdriver. We're going to need some solder to solder the wires on. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver to take out some of the Phillips screws, and cable for the TTL adapter. Now I got this on eBay, and it has little plugs on the end which fit nicely onto the USB TTL adapter. You're going to need a soldering iron. This is the KSGER. You're going to need one with a really nice fine tip on the end of it because you are dealing with extremely small pads. I also like to use this Amtech Flux. This just helps the solder to flow onto the solder pads, and that is about all that you need. So let's get on with actually taking this apart. Okay, so to take this apart it's really easy. There are 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4 there. We're going to use the 1.5mm hex driver. I'm going to take these screws out. I shall fast forward this because it's rather boring watching me take screws out. With all the screws out, you'll now see that this case will come apart. Now you notice I'm not taking it off the vibration plate. You don't need to take that off whatsoever. You can leave that on, it just saves separating it off. What you're going to do is you're going to grab it here like this, and we're going to pull this off. Now it sounds horrible, but it does come off. And as you do it, turn it that way, because otherwise this little button here will fall out. Just literally just give it a little squeeze, and as you can see then it separates, and that's the bottom of the case. So you're left with this. Now you still need to take this off, and this requires a little bit of brute force, but trust me, it sounds worse than it is. Just put your 2 fingers either side there and just give it a little push. It'll go crack, and then you can just wiggle it off. There you go. It's not broken in any way, shape or form. It just sounds like it has broken. That's it. You're now into the guts of the camera, ready to start taking the boards out. Okay, so next thing is to take out these 4 screws here. There's one there, one there, one there and one there with your Phillips screwdriver. These are very tiny screws, so make sure you've got somewhere to put them when you take them out. I have this rubber pad on the desk, as you can see. the little places to put the screws. If these ping off, they're going to go somewhere, you're never going to find them, so do this on a workbench or kitchen table or something where you can get the screws if they fall out. And then last one here. Now I do have magnetic screwdrivers, but for some reason DJI decided not to make their screws magnetic in some way. So you have to just basically give them a little shake and it should come out there like that. Okay, so that's your 4 screws out. So what we're going to do, we're going to lift this board out, and it's connected with little push connectors. I'll show you that once I get the board out. Just push from the back like this, lift up, and it'll separate, and you just need to gently wiggle it. And if you give it a pull, you'll see this ribbon cable here just lifts up, and just put that out the way like that there. We've now got 2 more screws, one there and one on here, so I'm going to take those out. And that one. That's one. Which one does not come out there? That's the other one there, so that's 2. Now be careful with this board here, because as I lift up again with just your thumbs, you will notice a wire. See the wire? You just focus on that. That wire there controls the fan underneath, so you'll be very careful. You don't want to pull those off or snap that wire. Now in here, there's 2 post screws here, one here and one here. You can use a flat blade and turn them round, but I have this special bit that I've got with a weld screwdriver. You can see it's perfectly shaped for these post screws. Now I didn't have this when I started doing these. It was a bit of a nightmare getting these post screws out. So bear with me a second while I just unscrew them. And that one as well. I'll show you these once I've taken them out so you can see what they look like. Okay, let's give them a little shake. There we go, that's 1, 2. See if I can get this to focus on my hand. There we go, you can see, if I just turn it that way up, you can see that's the post screw there. As I said, you can use a little flat blade just to turn them down if you want to. But it's always best, if you want to do this, go to these weld screwdrivers. It comes with absolutely shed load of bits and has this perfect bit for doing this particular type of repair. Okay, so again, all we're going to do, we're going to just push from the back and lift up, and it'll just pop. And this is the board that we're wanting. This is the board we're going to be working on. So I'm going to put this out the way, we don't need that. I'm going to just show you this board, if I can get it to focus for me, there we go. These here are what we're going to be soldering to. This one over here is what we're going to be soldering to, and as you can see, they're extremely fine. Now there are a couple of spare ones just on the outside here. You can find a couple of spare ones to practice on, so I would suggest that maybe if you're not altogether sure, it's just have a little practice on the pads that you're not going to use. That way you can just make sure your soldering skills are up to shape. If you damage any of these pads doing it, then my suggestion is to stop right there and send this to someone who can do the repair for you. Okay, to get the software, we're going to head over to my GitHub page here. I will put this link in the description box below. You're going to come to here where it says code. You're going to click code and you're going to click download zip. That's going to download. Once it's downloaded, you'll find it here in your download folder. Now you're going to need a program called WinRAR. So if you just go to your web page and in the search bar type in WinRAR, the tool is here, just download it and follow the prompts to install it. All you need to do is double left click on that file, it will open up WinRAR. Double click on P2V Flash main, this name may change, and you'll find the installer program here. Now at the moment it shows P2 Flash V7, that may change as I introduce V8, V9 etc. Simply double click it and you will come to this, the welcome to the P2V Flash tool install program. Got to click on next. Next again, accept the license agreement and click next, and it will then give you a install directory. It is very, very important that the tool is installed into this install directory. If you try to install it anywhere else, the tool won't work. Click on next and then click yes to create destination directory, and then click start, and it will say P2V tool has been successfully installed. Click next and exit. You'll now see a new shortcut on your desktop, and again it's labelled P2V Flash V7. This may change, but the icon will always stay the same. Okay, so now we're going to get ready now to solder up these pads here, ready for the wires to be connected. As I said, this is a very fine job, so only do this if you are 100% confident within yourself. So we're going to use these goggles because my eyesight is terrible. These have little built-in magnifying glass and a little light on them. And if we just go back to the page here, you'll notice I'm going to follow this wiring diagram here, and I'm going to know which pads on here that I'm going to be soldering up. So let's make a start on wiring this up. Okay, so that's that all soldered up. As you can see, if I get this to focus, on focus, there we go. There is 4 here, 1 here, that's 5, and then the TP10 there is all soldered up and ready to be used. So now, of course, I just need to put these wires on. Now, you'll notice I have this little wire here. This is an additional power supply wire. You do need 2 lots of 5 volts coming off the TTL board to repair one of these. So I'll just show you, I have put another 5, if I can get to focus. You can just solder the wire onto the pad here that's marked 5 volts. So bear with me while I just wire all this up. Okay, so now we're going to plug it in, the TTL adapter. Just as a side note, you may not have the drivers installed for this. If you don't have the drivers installed, then just do a Google search for the drivers. They are fully available on the web. Okay, I'm going to go back to the tool, and I'm going to click on this one here, which I didn't show you before. And this shows you where you're going to connect the blue wire to. Alright, now having mine in a board holder does make it a hell of a lot easier to use. So you're going to touch on this little, what is it, like a little resistor or something there, to put it into what we call boot mode. Boot mode, when it's ready, it allows you to flash the software. Okay, so let's make a start. First we're going to plug in the board. Now we need to find out what port we're on, so we're going to go across to the main screen here. This tool should, and I say should, actually show you the port, but unfortunately it's not working for some reason. So what I'm going to do is, if you just go down to your search bar here and type in Device Manager and click on it. And if you go across to ports, it should show you USB serial port. Mine is COM3. If it doesn't have that listed, it means the driver's not installed. When you plug in the TTL, you should see that USB serial port appear. Okay, so I'm going to click now on Run PuTTY, and I'm going to show you how to set up PuTTY. First of all, we're going to need to use serial, so click on serial, and you're going to change that to whatever COM port you have in use at the time. So for me, that's COM3, and I'm going to need to change the speed to 115/200, like so, and then we're going to click on Open. Now you'll see you get this black screen with a little cursor in the corner not doing anything. We now need to put the board into boot mode, so go back to the board. I'm going to turn the board over like this because I have this rather great little board holder, and I'm going to touch the pin as shown in the picture, and then what I'll do is I'll go back to the other screen and you should see Boot Me start to appear. Like so. So that now is ready to be flashed. So we're going to close out PuTTY. You must close out PuTTY or else the tool won't work. And then we're going to click Flash Board with original files. As mentioned earlier, you might need to try both types. This will launch the tool that I built, and it says, do you know the COM port you're using? Yes, you do know the COM port. If you click no, it will open Device Manager for you and show you the COM port as I showed you before. What is your port number? It's number 3. And then once you've done that, just press enter. And it will say, this is an automated process. Please don't touch the keyboard. It should take about 1 minute at most. You're about to flash Phantom 2 Vision camera files. Press any key to continue. And it's now flashing the NAND chip on board. As I said, automated process. Don't touch this. This is what it should do. If it does anything different, then do let me know. Okay, now this is the point where it can all go wrong. If it starts to loop a message around saying can't do this, can't do that, then it's failed, that NAND chip, and you cannot do anything with it. Okay, please don't message me saying it's not doing the second half. If it doesn't go through this stage here, your NAND chip has failed and there's nothing you can do to repair it. This will now get to 100%. And once it reaches 100%, it'll do its final bit of reading and writing. Just press any key to continue, and that's it, all done. Close that out, and then just close that out. We don't need that anymore. Let's go back to the board. There we go. So now we're going to just pull the wire out here. Okay, we're going to put it back in again. We're going to go back to the desktop, and we're going to launch the tool, and we're going to click on Run Putty, and you're going to run your same as before. Just open the port you've got, and now you'll see that it's now outputting basically its language, its program. And what you're looking for is looking for it just to carry on looping around at a certain point here. Now you'll notice all this PEB scrub information here that's listed. This is just the NAND cleaning up the chip. So what I like to do is I like to just close that out, kill pause the board, plug it back in again, and then run putty a second time. And I'm looking to make sure it doesn't show any PEBs being scrubbed or PEBs being moved. So I'm just looking at the text now as it goes through, and I'm looking to make sure, see, it's done some more cleaning there. You see the PEBs there being moved? That means it's still reorganising itself, so I'm going to just close that out, and I'm going to do the process for a third time. You don't need to do this, but I'm just a bit of a purist when it comes to it. I'm going to run putty again, open it up, and we're going to just make sure it doesn't do any more PEB moving or PEB cleaning. Let it run through. As you can now see, you've now got a nice clean environment. This loop round is looking for the other bits of boards that are in the camera, and it can't find them, so it does this. Other than that, that means that board has successfully taken a flash and should work. Obviously the only proof of that is to put it all back together again and make sure it does. So now the rather laborious and boring job of putting this all back together again. Just a few quick notes. Each little board has a corresponding socket and plug on it, as you can see there. Make sure they all go back together again. So I'm going to drop that in there, and I'm going to just, you'll hear the click like that. This top one as well will go on. I need to put these screws back in here, put the board back together and sort it all out. I'll do all that off camera because it is literally the most boring job on earth and takes me about 5 minutes. Just as a side note, when putting this board in with the wire, just be very careful you don't pinch the wire on it. Put it back in and try and keep the wire out of the way as best as possible, or else it will all go badly wrong for you. You'll end up chopping a wire and then you'll end up not having the fan working. Okay, so with this top board now you need to fold this ribbon and slide it in between the two boards at the back like that, and then you just have to wiggle it in. It's a little bit fiddly to get in, so just bear with me a second. There we go, that's in place now. Now it's very important when you put this top board in that it sits flush and it sits properly. If you don't get it level, then it doesn't make a proper connection, and what happens is the board then doesn't work properly. So make sure you give it a firm push down. If you have this, you see the gap there, it's not gone on right, so just give a little bit of a wiggle and make sure you hear that nice click. You'll now see that gap has closed up. So let's put these other screws in. Okay, so the phantom Wi-Fi has appeared. So let's launch the DJI Vision app. Click on camera and we keep our fingers crossed. This camera is now working. Spinning circle, always get that for a few seconds to start with, and there you go. It's actually all working. Obviously it's upside down because the camera is upside down, but you can now see you now have a fully working Phantom 2 Vision camera, and it's taken you probably half an hour at most to repair it. So that's it, that's the repair done. I'll put this back together again. This is going on a quad that I've got that someone wants to buy off me. If you've got any comments at all, please ask the question, but do check the Phantom Pilots forum first of all. Lots and lots and lots of information in there about this particular fix, so any error messages, anything you might encounter, check there first of all. If you like the video, obviously give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. I'll put a little icon here to remind you to subscribe. And with that all done, it's time to end the video. Thank you very much for watching, take care, and as always, fly safely.